Hey, what is up guys? It's Dragon Ball for Life here. Today, I'm going to be debunking the Goku versus Superman death battle video. Now, I know this video is old, but my channel's kind of new. So, I was hoping to, go throughout this entire video and spot problems that I had with it and calling it out and debunking it. This is different than my usual videos because I just recently downloaded OBS and I had some problems. So, you're probably going to hear some issues here because my laptop's kind of like crappy. I also didn't put my face through the face cam because the images look really bad on it. So I'm just going to be putting the video itself full screen. I'm going to be pausing it and talking about specific parts into it. It's going to be quite a bit long because I'm going to be pausing quite a bit. And the video itself naturally was already long. So it's going to take quite a bit of time. And if my audio gets messed up in parts, I'm sorry for that. I really try to fix it, but I just can't. So hopefully you guys can bear with me. So let's get this started. I'm going to skip quite a bit.
Worlds, these two alien saviors are
Destroy entire solar systems. Destroy entire solar systems by sneezing. Probably a good idea. He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick.
and it's
Wait,
our
what?
job.
Fight. And I mean everyone.
Goku, the tenacious Super Saiyan.
And Superman, the Man of Steel.
To ensure no questions are left unanswered, we will be acknowledging every official resource for both combatants, though the original writings hold precedence. No mistranslations allowed. Also, as he was retconned and rebuilt in 1986, we will be examining the modern Superman.
Considering Supes pre-86 could make up new superpowers on the fly and destroy entire solar systems by sneezing, probably a good idea. He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick.
Okay, they said they're going to be using post-crisis Superman. So the one that we were talking about earlier was Silver Age Superman, which is also considered pre-crisis Superman. So they're going through only the era of post-crisis and I guess modern day, but it's pointless because they do use countless, feats from different variations and different ones and through different timelines and even from the Silver Age itself. And people like to argue that the reason why they don't like this is because they use a composite Superman. So basically they use a Superman with feats from different eras. And I'm fine with that if they're going to use composite Superman. But if you're going to distinctly tell us that, hey, we're choosing this specific version of Superman, and then you use feats from other ones, that's where I have a problem. I'm fine with using composite if you're going to say that from the jump. But if you're telling us that, no, I'm specifically going to target, or one specific one and then use different ones, then I'm like, okay, you're lying. What's the point of doing that in the first place? Also, let's talk about Silver Age Superman one, because I did see some of his comics. The whole seizing out a solar system thing, that incident, what happened was Mixia spread around, he's the fifth dimension inf, he spread around, seizing powder around the earth, and Superman to stop them from seizing because apparently if they would sneeze, it would launch the earth out of its orbit. And he, absorbed all the sneezing powder up his nose and then had a sneeze and he flew off to a far distance and sneezed and destroyed a destroyed solar system. So let me go through why that's kind of BS because Mixia is a fifth dimensional inf and his tricks are never basic. So that wouldn't be just regular sneezing powder. That would be super sneezing powder, especially due to the fact that it was able to launch the entire planet out of orbit. That shows that because if everybody on Earth simultaneously sneezed at once, it wouldn't do that. But the fact that it was able to do that shows that it's not regular sneezing powder, it's high powered. So Superman destroying a solar system with that would most likely be due to the fact that, it wasn't regular sneezing powder, it was a high powered one, so it could have amplified his sneeze too. And he destroyed a dead universe, basically meaning the planets had like no life on it. They had like, the cores were frozen and probably the star was, weaker or whatever. So destroying a weaker solar system isn't the same as destroying a solar system, especially when you take out the context of the magical powder being amplified. Also, they said he can whip out different powers. I literally read the entire, like all of the catalog of Silver Age Superman, and no, that's not the case. He was not whipping out different powers every time. Every time you saw different stuff, it was due to red kryptonite, having effects on him. Because red kryptonite, the thing is, when he comes into contact with it, it has weird effects on his body. And even if he did have these feats, they were only shown for like one issue and then never shown again. So no, he's not using it every time. I'm not saying Silver Age Superman or pre-crisis Superman isn't ridiculously powerful because he is. I'm just saying that those instances they're showing is not correct. The solar system one, there's more to it, and the whole, him getting new powers out of the blue is BS. That was depending on the stories and how it went.
And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skill.
Now they're going to use the Kaizenchu quite a bit. They should have used more of the Daizenchu. They do mention it a little, but the Kaizenchu is basically a blog form for Dragon Ball fans to come onto it to basically say, hey, look, I think that talk about just different ideas and topics in Dragon Ball. None of them are any editors or writers or have anything to do with Dragon Ball itself. They are just Dragon Ball fans who like to talk about it. So take everything they say with a grain of salt. Just because they're Dragon Ball fans doesn't mean they know what they're saying. I would take it more from an official source than just a bunch of fans.
Vegeta. Simple mission. Goku by his adoptive grandfather, his life revolves.
Now, Goku's 137. I know this doesn't have anything to do with the battle itself, but I always found it weird that Goku is only 137 pounds, but you look at him, he's super jacked. He's my height, and I weigh 188. And even if I did get super jacked, I wouldn't be as jacked as Goku, especially if I was 137. So I always felt it was weird that, but yeah, that has nothing to do with the video. It's just my personal issue.
Revolves around combat. He cares little for
which pushes a person to superhuman levels.
complementing his Saiyan biology. Goku's superhuman, the fast-moving after image.
The problem with these techniques is, well, first of all, Mimicry is not a technique. It's an ability that all Saiyans have. It's just naturally in them. Rock, paper, scissors is when he used when he was a kid. He doesn't use it anymore as an adult. And the Fist of Eight Hands also as a kid, and he only used it one time. So I don't know why they put those in there. He has more techniques that he uses than just those. Fist of Shockwave, that's a low-end kind of ability. He also used that earlier on Dragon Ball. Dragon Throw, I don't know why they're putting this in. It's just a throw. So the fighting techniques, I think they could have done better in that
and
regard.
the Dragon Throw, his trademark grapple.
At 15, he was mostly gone.
Over 9,000!
But it doesn't even matter because power levels are absurd. The entire point of introducing them was to show how unreliable and meaningless they were. By relying on power levels, the villains constantly.
The whole power levels thing, I'm not saying power levels are true, but that statement was from. They didn't show who it was from. It could have been just a fan saying that the reason they were introduced to show how meaningless it is stupid. It makes no sense. They put such an emphasis on it to say that it's meaningless. Why would they do that? Toriyama did that because he wanted to show numerical value of these characters' powers and a best way to show who would win in a fight. But I guess he felt like later on that it would make the fights boring because then you would know obviously who would win, or you can tell by their power level compared to each other.
Underestimated the heroes, therefore using the official Dragon Ball Encyclopedia. It states power levels eventually become immeasurable. Not because they're so high they can't be measured, but because the characters, and hopefully the audience, have realized just how futile these numbers are.
Nope, it never said that. I don't know where they got that. They make statements, but then they don't show the evidence to it. They just say it and expect us to believe it. That's not true. I'm not saying that once again that power levels matter because I don't really use power levels. I try to avoid them. But to say that, oh, power levels technically don't count because the creator said that it's meaningless. No, it's not. He wouldn't put it in there if it was meaningless. The only reason Toriyama didn't do that is because it would put extra work on him. And you know him. He likes to do shortcuts.
I'm still 10 times stronger than you are.
That may be true, but strength isn't the only thing that matters.
We cannot judge Goku by his power level, nor can we through power scaling, the theory that he can achieve the same feats as lesser Dragon Ball characters. Goku's abilities are tailored to his personal training and experiences.
This is BS. I get the power level stuff. If you don't want to use that, that's fine. But saying no using, power scaling, why? They didn't put a really good reasoning saying that his specific training, that doesn't mean anything. Power scaling is not about the training. It's about the techniques and abilities and basically the power source to get from. And everybody in the Dragon Ball universe, majority of them use the same power from the same source. They have the same abilities, same techniques. They might have a little differences in their biology, but they still use the same stuff. So I don't know why Frieza can destroy a planet. I don't know why you would say that Goku can't. Because if Goku's like getting into a key clash with Frieza and he beats him in a key clash, wouldn't that make his Kamehameha or his energy attack equivalent to Frieza or surpass Frieza's energy attack that could destroy the planet? So yes, power scaling does work. The only reason they don't want to use is so they could put their own BS, multiplier in there and try to like lower his power than what it should be. Because if they use power scaling, he would be a lot more powerful. So no, power scaling does work. Their excuse is just dumb.
Not to mention anatomy.
I can breathe in space and you can't.
See, I said anatomy right there with like Piccolo, they can regenerate, but you can tell the difference between the anatomy and stuff. Their anatomy is not going to make them more, durable. It may allow them to survive more dangerous situations that otherwise they would die, but that has nothing to do with it. Frieza being able to breathe in space or not need to breathe doesn't do anything with power scaling. That is just that's a false equivalence.
However, Goku does have a knack for mimicking ki techniques.
Ki is metaphysical, made up of things such as vigor, courage, and being in one's true mind.
It's basically a kind of natural life force energy and is a fundamental component of Taoist medicine and martial arts. Oh, and it's not magic.
Dragon Ball creates a very distinct difference between ki and magic.
I don't know why they're making this distinction. Nobody's ever said that it was. None of the Dragon Ball fans have ever said, well, technically Ki is magic, so he can hurt Superman. Nobody's ever said that. I don't know where they got that from.
Ki is dependent on the physical ability of the user, and magic users like Babidi are clearly using something different. Goku harnesses and manipulates his ki energy
into badass lasers and stuff, like ki blasts, energy barriers, and...
Now, I want to talk about these ones. All these ones are fine. The only one I have a problem with is Dragon Fist. It's non-canon. It was only shown in GT and in the movies, which obviously they're non-canon. I do think the movie is cool, but it's never been in the series, so they could have put something else there.
And the Destructo Disc, which he totally stole from Krillin. The Solar Flare blinds opponents, and the Spirit Bomb puts energy from other things into a giant death ball that takes friggin' forever to make.
And energy taken from sentient beings must be voluntary. The Spirit Bomb is fueled by positive energy, which is only effective against those filled with negative energy, aka evil. In the Super Android 13...
Incorrect. I already did a video on this where I explained how the Spirit Bomb works, and no, it does not specifically target evil. It was stated that in the Saiyan Saga, but that might have been retconned, or just, the way they stated it wasn't like just exactly what they meant. Because we see this later on in the Buu Saga when Vegeta uses Purunga to revive everybody that died through the events of the Majin Buu, but only reviving the good ones, which did revive him. So technically, even Purunga considers him a good guy. But when Goku had the Spirit Bomb, was going to throw it at Kid Buu, he just couldn't because he was worried that Vegeta would get caught in the blast. Since he was right there, he said, no, if you die again, then, it'll be this or that problem. So the fact that Goku was worried about Vegeta dying, even though he was proven to be actually good, shows that the argument that no, the Spirit Bomb only works on evil is incorrect. If that was the case, he wouldn't have stalled against, Buu for, Hercule to save Vegeta. He would have just launched it. But the fact that he was worried for Vegeta's life, even though Vegeta was considered a good guy, shows that that's not the case. So the only reason they're using this is because Superman's a good guy, and this is one of Goku's biggest, techniques, and this would be the biggest help for him to win. So by getting rid of this, they're basically saying, hey, he can't use his best technique because he's not evil. So no, that's not true. He could use the Spirit Bomb on Superman.
Teen film, Goku actually absorbs the ki gathered from the Spirit Bomb, becoming one with it, transforming and manipulating the energy himself.
But his two best moves are the Dragon Fist, where he supercharges...
Okay, the absorbing thing, they used the movie. They stated in like one of their blogs that they're not going to be using, they're not going to be using non-canon material, which that movie was non-canon, so that doesn't count. Obviously, he can do this. We've seen this in Dragon Ball Super, but at this time, we never seen him really absorb it.
Charges his punch with a golden ki dragon and the one and only Kamehameha, a giant focus beam which every kid in the world has always wanted to do. Don't lie, you've tried it.
Goku also uses ki for telekinesis and high-speed flight. He can even sense the power and location of other ki sources, then teleport directly to them with instant transmission.
Which is light speed!
You dematerialize and travel as a mass of light.
Again, false! This is another mistaken translation. According to the original manga, instant transmission is, well, instant. Its only flaw is that it requires concentrated focus.
It's no good!
Once again, they're trying to take away one of Goku's strongest abilities. First, they did with the Spirit Bomb, saying it only works against evil. Now they're saying instant transmission. He can't really use it in a fight because he needs to focus. And if he's fighting against somebody like Superman who's fast, he could speed blitz him while he's trying to focus. You know why this is wrong? Goku does need to focus, but in specific circumstances. I had a video where I explained how instant transmission worked, and I explained in that video that the only time Goku would need to use this is if like an opponent is trying to destroy the planet, like with Kid Buu, and he needs to locate a far distance, like another solar body, like another planet, and has to connect to an energy signature that's far out. But if it's like, let's say the opponent is just trying to attack him and there's no worry about the Earth getting destroyed, Goku can use it without having to put his two fingers to his head or without even having to focus. He could literally just teleport around the battlefield because he would already have an energy signature locked onto. And we have seen him use this. We've seen him use this with the most iconic scene in Dragon Ball, which was the instant transmission Kamehameha, which was literally him using a technique which required it focus and then using instant transmission on top of it. So that proved him wrong. Also, when Cell fired a Kamehameha at him, he did it from inches away from hitting him instantly. He also did it in a fight against Kid Buu. He was doing backflips and Kid Buu was firing Ki Blast, and he was able to use the instant transmission. So no, he doesn't need to focus unless the Superman is destroying the planet, which I highly doubt. If he's just fighting a Superman face to face, he can use instant transmission easily, side to side and wherever. The only reason they're using this is to say, well, because the argument is Superman will be faster than him, but if Goku does have instant transmission, it doesn't matter how much faster Superman is, he can dodge his moves because he'll be moving to a speed that Superman can't even compete with and be able to hit him in that speed. So to negate one of his other big powers, they try to spread misinformation. So that's not true. He can use it in a middle of a battle unless the planet's being destroyed.
I can't concentrate.
Also, he can read minds.
Wait, what? Is there no limit to this ki thing?
There is. Goku draws from a finite pool of ki energy. So to increase his power, Goku perfected the art of Kaioken. This amplifies Goku.
Kaioken is pointless to use. I know the point of the show is to go through these different transitions of powers, but he doesn't use it anymore. Only now he does, but like back then he stopped using once we got Super Saiyan. So I'm not even gonna focus on this.
Ki, multiplying. But Goku does not have to rely solely
Applying.
This inventory section I do not like for many reasons. One, let's talk about the power pole. When was the last time he used the power pole? Oh yeah, the last time he used the power pole was all the way back in Dragon Ball. And even in Dragon Ball, he stopped to a certain point. He didn't use it again. He stopped using it, I think, in the Demon King Piccolo arc. I might be wrong, but he definitely didn't use it against Piccolo Jr. And he hasn't used this at all in Dragon Ball Z. The only reason that they put this in there is to, I think this was kind of to diss Goku, to be like, well, his physical attacks and his energy attacks wouldn't really have an effect on Superman, and Superman can really handle it, but if Goku uses his magical item, he can hurt him. But it's like, that is not true. He doesn't, he wouldn't even use it. He only used the power pole when somebody else had a weapon, and since he's going to be in hand-to-hand combat with Superman, he's not going to be using the power pole. And like I said, he doesn't use it anymore. The only reason they're putting it in is to make Goku look weaker, saying he can't hurt him physically unless he uses a magical item. So I don't count that. The Flying Nimbus, also, he doesn't use it in combat. He hasn't used it in a long time, so I don't know why they're putting it in here. Also, I think it should be faster than Mach 1.5. Then the Sensu Bean, he only used the Sensu Bean before or after a fight, never in the middle of a fight, so no point of putting it in here. The only reason they, once again, put it in here is to say, well, Goku would get easily obliterated by Superman unless he uses like a healing item like the Sensu Beans in the middle of the fight, which he would never do. So no, these three things, not necessary.
Cloud, which probably tastes like cotton candy.
Frieza, who
There are 4 different levels of Super Saiyan.
Uzara form they didn't need because they don't use it anyway. Super Saiyan 4, it's non-canon. I don't like them using it. I think they should just use Super Saiyan 3 at most. Also, I'm gonna make a video in the future about the Super Saiyan 2 and 3 multipliers, and maybe even Super Saiyan 1.
Saiyan, each drastically boosting his power. Like in 3 multiplies.
fortunately increase. More violent and up attitude. He does not fight to defeat others, he fights to defeat himself. However, this may also be his greatest weakness.
He prefers a fair fight, eager to see his opponent's maximum potential.
He's about.
Well, hindsight is 20/20.
And although he's more than tough enough to survive in a battle,
The problem with that statement is, yes, does he avoid unfair advantages, and did he let Frieza get more powerful? But he also does not like fights where the opponent is cheating. And yes, some people might say this is not cheating, but Superman using an external source such as the sun, whereas Goku uses his ki, which is within him. Goku would consider that cheating, especially since it heals him. So if Goku saw that, he would have called that like saying that's no fair. You're using a power that's not your own, and you would be basically what's the thing called? You'd be healing yourself. So yes, he would normally let that happen, but this is a different case. I think Goku would be like, hell no, you're not allowed to cheat using something else and heal yourself up. I'm going to stop you. No education, that's not necessary. I mean, we're talking about combat, not regular IQ and intelligence, so that's not needed in a fight. And everything else, I would say is fine.
Vacuum, he clearly needs oxygen.
Despite some basic schooling from Roshi, just to learn how to advance his weaknesses. To him, a formal education would just be
Hell beaten out.
becoming stronger, and Goku might just be the greatest.
I am the thing's ally!
Cell was born to
Superpowers.
After discovering his true heritage, Clark kept him from attaining
Green,
moved to the City of Moons as the American citizenship.
glasses, and I want to believe. Since then, his power's been pretty.
Let's talk about this image that they show him move the moon. He did look, obviously it takes a lot of energy to move even the moon, and Green Lantern's there, Wonder Woman's there, which are also powerful characters. But give him credit, he did move the planet, but then again, you could say the same thing for Green Lantern and Wonder Woman.
Inconsistent, mostly due to the writers doing whatever the hell they please.
Well, there is a legitimate explanation. Superman's powers are dependent on rises. However, he cannot absorb sunlight with his powers.
First hippie to me.
So Superman
He is a hippie.
is inside the sun. When he was our world's at war, Superman actually spent 15 minutes inside the sun. When he resurfaced, he was powerful enough to effortlessly move planets.
I did read this comic book and they're lying. First of all, he moved one. Second of all, it was a ship that was the size of a planet and a small planet, Mercury. So it wasn't even multiple planets. It was one and a small one. And on top of that, he didn't even actually fully move it. He failed to do so, even with the 15-minute charge in the sun. If you actually read the rest of the comic, you would see that Hawkgirl and Hawkman, their people, all came to help out Superman. So they all started to help him push it, and they had their rocket ships and like other engines push it with him. Without their help, he would have failed. So he somewhat pushes it, but he does need a lot of help, and it would be small planet level.
He can also hear sounds millions of miles away, see through anything but lead, and spot things moving faster than light.
He can see at a subatomic level and hear through the vacuum of... It happened.
Well, weird abilities aside, Superman can freeze his beams from his eyes.
His heat vision can...
He can incinerate entire planets.
Also, this scene, once again, they took it out of context. He wasn't... I'm not saying he can't, but this scene doesn't prove it. He wasn't trying to, vaporize the planet because it's Earth. Why would he destroy the Earth and kill a bunch of innocent people? What happened was there was something where, I think an ice age was happening and the Earth was getting super cold. So for Superman to prevent it from happening, he flew out, shot his lasers to warm up the sun a couple of degrees so it could melt it and, prevent it from freezing over. So no, he didn't vaporize this. If you see later on, after these, images and panels, you would see later on people still on the planet's still there. So no, he did not vaporize the planet.
It's in a staring contest.
However, heat vision does drain his solar power much. Vision can reach
Your pupil.
by vibrating to just vibrate his body fast enough to phase through attacks, even turn invisible. By vibrating to just under...
Now the problem with that is, yes, that is the case, but that's nothing special. Goku was able to do this early on in Dragon Ball. Moving so fast that you basically phase through things is a common thing. I mean, after image technique is basically that, but also leaving an image of you there. And on top of that, it's the whole moving so fast you go invisible has been shown countless times in Dragon Ball. Best example when Goku used it against Krillin in the 22nd Budokai Tenkaichi tournament. He used it, and Master Roshi couldn't even see him. Only Tien could somewhat see him. But yeah, Goku's used this before too, so being able to phase and stuff and, even vanish is not that impressive as they're making it sound out to be, because Goku could do that all the way back in Dragon Ball.
Under light speed, Superman can use the infinite mass punch. The speed causes the relative mass of his fist to increase immensely and hits with the force of a supernova.
Which explodes at a force of 10 octillion megatons.
Okay, the images they're showing from this was, I forgot the name of the comic book, but it was where this guy created a shadow moon, and the shadow moon was falling towards Earth to destroy it. So for Superman to prevent the shadow moon from destroying the Earth, he flew at like near the speed of light and did the infinite mass punch. He lifted out his fist and punched right through it. But in doing so, he was only shown to be able to destroy a moon level object. These shadow versions are weaker than the original, so it would be even less than a moon one, but it would, at most, I would put it at moon busting. And even with that, he was knocked out. And you can even see it right here. He's literally unconscious. As he's flying towards it, he collides with it. You see the massive explosion, and then you see him unconscious, and then the Green Lantern has to pick him up. So yeah, he does destroy a moon, but he does get KO'd by it, and they're stating that it has the power of a supernova. And the reason they're saying that is because Flash said it has the mass of a white dwarf star, but we've never seen it show that level of power because the most it's done is shatter windows in a city, and he's used this against Professor Zoom, who's a regular human, and all they did was knock him out for like a couple of seconds. This infinite mass punch hasn't shown to generate that much power to a supernova level. So I'm calling BS on that. They're stating that it's supernova, but they're not showing any feats where this technique has shown that much of power. Especially since that feat that they were showing right there, he just destroyed only a moon, and that was enough to knock him out. So obviously he wouldn't be having star level like attacks or supernova level attacks. So that is incorrect. That's BS. They didn't show any evidence or proof there. They're just saying that he can, which isn't the case. So no, it's not a power of 10 octillion tons. Also, let's be honest, infinite mass punch, it's a very basic move. It's basically just moving at the speed of light, punching somebody at the speed of light. So any character who can move at the speed of light, like Goku or whatever, can do the same technique. So that would make him special. So no, it's not supernova level, and also anybody can do it. And it's funny that they put planet busting here, even though they said that it was supernova level, which would be beyond planet busting.
Force of a supernova,
which explodes at a force of 10 octillion megatons. Thanks, back to the day calendar.
In comparison, this is the Superman is not only strong, but a genius with a
disabling opponents through pressure.
Okay, let's go to the hand-to-hand combat stuff, because this is them trying to make an argument for, like, he can actually match up with Goku in a hand-to-hand fight. It's not just power alone, but I'm going to go through why these are the problems with these. First, the pressure point thing. Yeah, he's done this, but it's not going to really work on Goku. We've seen this in Dragon Ball. We've seen it in this 22nd Budokai Tenkaichi tournament when Tien used this against Yamcha. When they're fighting, he gets Yamcha backed up into the wall, and he starts hitting with the pressure points, and then knocks him down. And Yamcha is able to handle this. He also does this against Kid Goku in the same tournament. Goku takes it, and then he takes an additional beating on top of it, and he allowed it. And Goku barely took any damage, so this pressure point technique wouldn't really work. Hand-to-hand combat for Wonder Woman and stuff like that, that's probably like one comic book issue, but let's be honest. If we're really comparing fighting skills, Superman's hand-to-hand fighting skills are nowhere near on par with Goku's level. And even Superman fans can admit that Superman's, fighting isn't really that good. He usually relies on his power. And the psychic barrier thing from John Jones, he does have some psychic protection, but that would be more against low-level psychic attacks. If it's a higher-level psychic ability, then it can still work on him. So, psychic attacks and mind manipulation still does work on him. It would just have to be to a little bit of a higher degree. The way they're trying to make it sound like is none of this would ever work on him. And then the Terraquasm Ra and Terraquasm Vo, they explain it a bit, and I want to move on to that.
Pressure point combat, and once fought demons in Valhalla alongside Wonder Woman and Thor for 1,000 frickin' years.
He's even learned how to protect his mind from telepathic attacks.
I heard your telepathic shout before, but my mind is protected from anything deeper by a series of psychic blocks.
Best I've seen, too.
He also studied 2 Kryptonian martial arts, Torquasm Rao and Torquasm Vo.
Orgasm what now?
Torquasm Rao is a hard martial art in which Superman enters the Theta state, a real-life phenomenon in which a person becomes extremely receptive to information and instinct. Torquasm Vo is a mental martial art, with which Superman can fight off mind domination and illusions, or even counterattack.
Let me explain why. People try to use this and say, look, Superman does have fighting abilities, but he's only learned one fighting style, Kryptonian martial arts or whatever. and those he only learned two abilities from it. One of them is kind of like a low level Ultra Instinct where it can help you dodge, which is useful. But Goku could do that too even early on because this is more like basic level, and this one is against psychic attacks, which I guess you could say it's a technique, but it really depends. Only first of all, it's not a real martial art technique, and second of all, this would only work against people who use psychic abilities, and Goku would not really use psychic attacks against Superman. He would be fighting him hand to hand, so this form of fighting also would be pointless against Goku.
In order to master all his powers, Superman needed to break through his own self-created mental blocks. Like how when he was younger, he believed he needed to eat food and breathe oxygen like humans, when he can really just survive on solar energy alone, like some weird plant man.
And thanks to some intense training from Mongol II, he managed to tear these barriers down and become the true Superman, capable of amazing feats.
Yeah, like when he obliterated an F5 tornado with a round of applause, or when he was the filling for a planet sandwich.
Let's go back to that one.
Tornado with a round of applause, or when...
Wrong. They point an arrow to the center, but you don't see Superman in the center. You know why? Because he was never in the middle of the collision. If you actually see the actual comic book, it was a fight between Orion and Darkseid. So it was father and son versus each other, and New Genesis and Apocalypse collided with each other. Superman was there, but he was not in between the planets. What happened is they cropped out majority of the image. In the actual image, Superman was hit by one of the fiery pits of Apocalypse in the bottom, and that already took him out. So no, he was not hit by the collision between the two planets. He was just hit by one of the fiery pits. And even Orion talked to him saying that you shouldn't be... this is why mortals shouldn't trifle with godly affairs or something like that. So no, Superman did not survive two planets colliding into each other. He survived Planet Apocalypse's fire pit, and it did knock him out.
He was the filling for a planet sandwich, or held a mini black hole in his...
This mini black hole situation, what happened in this comic book was they got a mini black hole the size of like a speck of dust. So Batman created a machine to trap it in there, but the problem was the machine was slowly, it was messing up, and the gravitational fields or pull from the black hole were slowly leaking out of this miniature black hole. So Superman had to hold it in his hand to prevent it from happening. And this is why this is really specific. This matters because one, it was a small size of a black hole. The smaller it is, the weaker the gravitational pull is. So at most, a size that big would be, I guess, moon level, the weight of the moon. It wouldn't be anything the size of an actual black hole. So he's holding a small black hole anyway. Two, it's already capsuled into a machine, so he's trying to hold the machine in. And like I said, it was only escaping a bit of the gravitational pull, not the entire thing. So it would be a fraction of that anyway, and it would be holding the machine. Also, he's in intense pain in this one. You can see him clenching. So this would be him at his max. And actually, Superman, he states that he's in excruciating pain, and then Batman does fix up the machine so it doesn't let out the thing. So technically, he does hold the mini black hole in his hand, but the gravitational pull would be a lot smaller. It was in a machine that was letting out a bit of it, so it would be even smaller than that. He was going to his max, and they basically closed it. So he wasn't technically doing it the way they said. They made it sound like he was just holding the black hole in his hand and casually doing it.
His hand. Oh, or the time he dragged the freaking Earth around.
Also, that Earth one, they failed to mention that Green Lantern was also dragging it. You see in the image, Green Lantern literally has a harness there. They're trying to make the argument that, oh no, he just created the thing to hold onto it and Superman was pulling it. So Superman was doing all the work while Green Lantern was just giving a little assistance. That's not true. Green Lantern did help him out. But if you want to also, again, check the comic book, they tell Superman to pull the planet, and he's like, are you crazy? This is a ridiculous feat, even for me. So then he had to work with Hal Jordan's Green Lantern to pull the planet together, and even then, it was a hard thing to do. So Green Lantern also was pulling it and was putting in work. Superman would be putting more work into it, but to say that Superman was doing it alone is BS. He even said he couldn't do it alone. And afterwards, he was so fatigued that he said, I'm gonna be asleep for an entire week.
Superman has survived some pretty crazy things, like when cold gas hit him with 15 supernovas to the face.
That was like 15 suns exploding in his face.
I just said that.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about this scene. It's funny because when Dragon Ball characters state that they could do something, fans or people usually try to say, no, they can't do that. They meant this or that. Like when Cell said he could destroy the solar system, people said, no, he means he would destroy the sun, which would destroy the solar system, or he would specifically target each planet and then destroy the sun, and that's what he meant, which is stupid. It's like, why would he do that? That's pointless. But also, it's like, so when a Dragon Ball character says they can do something crazy, you try to make some excuse and say, no, they can't. He's not a solar system buster. He's moon level or star level, and he's destroying it individually. But when somebody like this guy, who hasn't been even shown that much, states, it's like 15 exploding suns in his face, then people believe him, even though the most it did was create a small crater in the moon. And that statement, this character, I don't know his name, but I remember watching this movie. It was Superman versus the Elite. And in this film, this character, these guys have fought like other beings. They fought like a giant like bug creature that was created by like scientists, and he used his energy attack against it, even at a high output, and wasn't able to destroy it. So I highly doubt that he has the power of 15 exploding suns. That was more metaphorical, and it's funny that people say that for Cell, but then they go and hear this and like, yeah, that makes sense. So I feel like there's definitely a bias when it comes to fans and what they would accept. So no, I don't think that's actual 15 exploding suns in face. He doesn't prove, there's no proof that he has that much amount of power.
Exaggeration? Maybe, but he has survived other supernovas before.
Once again, another image that they lied. They're saying that he's in, I think this is Brainiac's ship, and they're saying that the supernova, he survived it. Technically, he was not in the ship. Once again, they cropped out the image. If you see the full image, Superman is far off on another planet. He's like on a planetoid thing that's in a far distance. Obviously, he would be still hit by some of the power, but not the full extent. So Superman was not there. They cropped it out again, and they pointed at an image where he was not. He was not in there. So no, he did not survive. He did not take a point-blank supernova. He just took a fraction of a supernova, which is still pretty impressive, but wouldn't be the level of
when he takes a hit, his super dense molecular structure and bioelectric aura protects him and his suit.
Holy crap, he sounds invincible!
Not exactly. His solar energy can be depleted over the course of a battle if he takes too much damage or remains out of sunlight for too long. This is how the monster Doomsday was able to kill him. Oh, sorry, not kill, put him into a healing coma. He also has several specific weaknesses, like the famous kryptonite, radioactive fragments of his home world which bring him to his knees. Any prolonged exposure will eventually kill him. He also has no special resistance to magical attacks.
And he always gets all hung up on doing the right thing, even if it makes his life miserable.
He does not fight for himself, but to protect others. Even the buildings in Metropolis are more valuable, proving his own abilities.
Constant opportunity.
All right,
It's battle!
Now, I will be analyzing some of the scenes. I'm not going to be pausing as much as I was for that because it was specifically talking about feats. I'm going to go through some of the stuff and how it doesn't make sense. I know a lot of people say that technically, you shouldn't be counting this in because, well, people don't... What they said is they don't actually... what's the thing called? They themselves said that the fighting that you see this is not an actual representation of what they think would happen. It's just the outcome.
Huh?
Look at him.
I heard he's...
Oh boy, this is gonna be fun.
You're insane! Fight! You're out, Max. Give up!
I'll pass!
I'll what?
can't move.
So, you're an alien too, huh?
What did you do to me?
Pressure points.
I reproved that pressure points wouldn't work. It's been used on him. Pressure points have never really worked on Dragon Ball characters, so this wouldn't work.
Didn't work at first, but my X-ray and microscopic vision let me find your body's weak points. You won't be going anywhere. What is that?
Also, Goku wouldn't be using the sense beam. See what I mean? They were saying that he would get easily beat and would need to use it. He would never use it. Even if he was put in a situation where he could die, he would rather die than do something that dirty.
Ah, sensu beam. Want one?
No. I'm ending this. Now.
What?
Okay, Blondie, what's going on?
I am Son Goku!
Well, this might take a while.
There.
Gee, thanks. Next time, watch your blind spot.
That doesn't make sense. Goku doesn't have a blind spot. Goku can sense energy, so in this fight, he should be able to sense Superman coming at him or where he is. Even when they blast them and they can't see them, they can sense where they are. Unless obviously they can get caught off guard, but him being standing right behind him, he would be able to sense him. So no, they do not have a blind spot.
Deja vu. Magic.
The game's not as fun when you're losing, is it?
Game? You think this is a game? I haven't even begun to play.
Once again, Goku wouldn't be using the power pole at all. He doesn't use it in a fight, and he would consider that cheating.
Makes him so strong!
Attacking my mind, huh?
The problem with this scene is Goku's never done that. He's never said, "How is this guy so strong? I need to read his mind." That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Goku can sense energy. The only types of beings that he can't sense the energy is, beings that are made with mechanical machines, such as the androids or godly beings. Superman is not an android or a godly being, no matter how much people try to say he's a god. He's still a regular person. Goku should be able to sense his energy. So no, Goku would never do that. He's never done that because he can sense energy. He would not be like, "How is he so powerful?" He could sense how powerful he is, and he could tell also if he's holding back. Goku's been able to do that countless times. I don't know why they're acting like in this fight that Goku would have problems, being able to sense him and need to do something like that. Also, no, Superman's mind is not that strong. You could peer into his mind, and okay, I'll just tell you why. There was a comic book, the one they used where he was flying Wonder Woman up and fighting her. That they used, they said he was 8 times the speed of light or whatever. He was basically attacking her because he was mind controlled by Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord is one of Wonder Woman's villains. He has psychic abilities. He's a regular human physically, but he has psychic abilities. He messed up with Superman's mind, making Superman think the Wonder Woman was Doomsday and that she killed Lois, who had his child. So he was in super rage. He was super enraged, and he was willing to destroy it. So yes, psychic attacks do work on him. He's not impervious to psychic abilities at all.
Solar flare!
My turn.
Now that one makes no sense. Solar Flare should have blinded him. I guess the argument they're trying to make is that, well, he absorbs solar energy and since it's called solar flare, but earlier they did say it was a ki attack, so it uses ki, so no, it's not actual like that. What would have actually happened is, yes, Superman would have been blinded if he used the solar flare, and technically, if he was blinded, Goku could have simply just thrown a destructo disc, and who knows, it might have killed him or it might have not. Destructo disc, people say that it can cut through anything. I don't know about that, but it could at least do some damage if he blinded Superman.
I've got a bad feeling about this. Here we go again.
It's over, Superman. Nobody is stronger than Super Saiyan 4. My ultimate form.
Ultimate form, huh? About time you ran out.
It's funny they show Superman like this, like, oh, he's fighting like a Dragon Ball character. He knows how to fight hand-to-hand combat. This is BS. Let's be honest. I've seen a ton of Superman comic books. I've seen the animated stuff. I've seen the live action stuff. Superman has never fought like this. He's not like a Dragon Ball character where he's able to, throw hands and collide fists with each other or do perfect blocks and parries and dodges, dodges in a fight. And that whole, where you see the countless shockwaves everywhere, Superman doesn't fight like that. Usually, he does move fast, but that's only to fly and catch up his opponent, and then he stops and gets stationary. So no, Superman would not be moving like this in a fight. This is just to make it look like he could go hand-to-hand, toe-to-toe with Goku in hand-to-hand combat. Which, no, that's not the case.
Don't have much left in me. Have to get above those clouds.
Oh, no, you don't!
That's it. Good fight. Wait, there's no way. He's still alive. It's the sun. He's using the sun.
It's kind of funny now he can sense that he's alive, but earlier he couldn't sense him and needed to read his mind. Also, Goku would be able to tell that he's getting power from the sun because Goku would be seeing his power level rising the closer he would get to the sun, so he would notice that. Also, every time Goku damaged him, he would be re-healing, and he would be able to see the Superman's body absorbing the sunlight. So no, it wouldn't take him this long to figure that out. He would have probably figured that out early on when he did even some damage.
But I'm trained.
Also, they did the whole absorbing thing because we were gonna put the spirit bomb in here, but we're also not gonna use it to throw it against him, even though he can. He should have been able to throw it against him because it doesn't matter if he's evil or not. Bye-bye, Goku.
It's over! It's finally over! We never have to hear about it again!
Indeed. Superman may not be as tenacious as Goku, but sometimes tenacity only prolongs the inevitable.
Superman's power's insane! He can even patch up holes in reality!
What happened in this case was, I think Dr. Fate gave Superman power, he gave him some energy thing to allow him to fix it up with his own hands. So he's using magic. This is not his actual power. He's never really shown to alter reality or the fabric of space.
Just with his own static electricity.
Goku did not understand Superman's connection to the sun and would not think to teleport him to a red star.
He actually would be able to do the connection to the sun because, Goku can sense his energy. He could sense that he's getting stronger by the sun when he gets closer. He could also sense that every time he hits him, he's able to re-heal himself through the sunlight contacting his body. And even if Goku did know that a red sun would take his power away, I don't think Goku would be as cowardly as to teleport him to a place where he would depower him. So no, even the Dragon Ball fans that say that he would do that, he would never do that. Goku would consider that pathetic. And on top of that, even if Superman is in the Red Sun, it's not like his power instantly goes away. It does take some time for it to deplete to normal human levels. I think they said a whole 24 hours, so a whole day. He has to be in the Red Sun for a whole day for him to be completely powerless. So even in that case, it would throughout the progression of the fight it will help out, but in the beginning it wouldn't really help out.
Even if he did figure it out, he would run the risk of teleporting him to a blue star, which actually increases Superman's power.
And if Goku destroyed the sun, the supernova would blast all the way past Mars and incinerate him.
So
actually, destroying the sun would not create a supernova. It will be just a nova. Our sun is too small to be a supernova level.
it ultimately comes down to who is stronger, faster, and tougher. The force needed to move an object out of the sun's orbit by 1% is about 1,000 times less than the object's mass. The Earth weighs in just under 6.
Okay, so this feat, once again, I already explained that it wasn't Superman alone. Hal Jordan helped him out. He's literally right there. People make it sound like he only created the construct for Superman to hold on to move the planet. But even Superman told Batman, like, hey, look, this is crazy. I can't do this on my own. So he came there to help him out. So they were both doing it. So you would say it would be half of this, or a little bit more than half of this would be Superman's. But that's still impressive. And it's cool to... I do like the fact that they show us that moving a planet in outer space will be 1,000 times easier than if it was, like, I guess, in, not in a non-vacuum area.
6.6 sextillion tons. This means Superman is strong enough to move 6.6 quintillion tons.
But since his solar power can rise infinitely, this is nowhere near his maximum strength.
Now that one he was like bench pressing a planet. So I'm not saying that he can't do it. I'm just saying that the images that they use specifically just don't prove their point.
You're lifting 200 quintillion tons. That's 3 times your record.
Okay, let's talk about the 200 quintillion tons thing. That thing, the problem with using that is this was All-Star Superman. If you read the comic book, Lex Luthor basically tricks him to save some, I think it was astronauts going into the sun, and by him getting super close to the sun, basically Superman got supercharged his cells, and he was getting stronger and stronger, but as it was doing, it was overpowering his cells, and they were starting to burst and die out, so it was killing him. But at first it was making him stronger, so that's why he said that. He got 3 times stronger than what he used to be. So that would be an augmented level of power that he had due to the plan that Lex made. So normally he doesn't move that much. I think moving the planet would be good enough benchmark. But even with that being said, actually I'll go into the ending about the whole him lifting weights stuff. So let's just go into the speed.
While being timed by Max Lord, Superman flew to the sun and back in less than 2 minutes. That's 9.4 billion kilometers per hour.
Not to mention he was fighting Wonder Stripper the whole time.
True, so it's likely he can go faster.
Okay, Superman can definitely go faster than 9.4 times the speed of light. I think this is a far more low-end feat to use, but also them saying that he was fighting Wonder Woman. I mean, the way he was fighting her was basically he was grabbing her by the neck and flying towards and lasering her in the face. It wasn't like they were going back and forth and fighting like how you saw Goku and Beerus in Battle of Gods. He was literally grabbing onto her, so that wouldn't slow down that speed. So the speed would still be 9.4 billion miles. So no, that is incorrect for 2 reasons. 1, he can go faster than this. This is a low-end feat. And 2, he wasn't really fighting her to the point where it was slowing him down.
According to Batman, he can fly at least 17 billion kilometers per hour.
And nobody argues with Batman. The Man of Steel can survive the impact of multiple supernovas, each with about 10 octillion megatons of force.
So
I reprove why that was wrong. The guy that said that, there's no real evidence where he has that level of power of 15 exploding suns. Also, the supernova right there, I already pointed out the fact that he wasn't actually in the epicenter of the supernova explosion. He was far off to the side, so he was probably hit with a fraction of it. And from what we saw, if you see the image, he was hit more by the shockwave, so it would be even less than that. So no, he's never really shown to be hit by a supernova. That instance where they showed was BS.
Superman's feats and skills are definitively measured. However, Goku's are not, and are difficult to judge. Not only does Dragon Ball heavily abuse cinematic time, but Goku's final adventures in Dragon Ball GT are incredibly inconsistent due to his untimely transformation into a child.
Wow, the room got a lot bigger somehow.
It's funny they say that. If that's the case, then why use GT at all? Why use Super Saiyan 4 Goku? Just use Dragon Ball Z, use Super Saiyan 3. If you're not going to be even using GT, then why put it in there? You know, it's pointless.
He is dependent on the physical body. His child form likely could not handle his own ki, sending his power into flux.
It can't take it. It's too weak. My older body was more developed.
And obviously we're not using future Goku, because that would require a ridiculous amount of assumptions. Not to mention we'd have to use future Superman, who's pretty much God. So
the funny thing about that, that's Superman Prime 1 million. That is literally All-Star Superman. What happens? In the end, he's going to explode. He's going to go supernova. And the sun was basically poisoned, so it was dying. So for Superman to save it, he went into the sun to use that explosion to reignite the star somehow and basically bring the sun back. And then he stayed in there for like, I think, 15,000 years, and he got stronger. So that's only one iteration of Superman. Also, them saying that he's God level. I will be making a video specifically talking about this. I read that comic book years ago, so I'm going to reread it to see if what they're saying is true, that he is God level. Because I do think they over-exaggerate a lot on this show with the character's powers to like prove that this character could win in a fight. So I think that could be an over-exaggeration. But yes, he is a lot more powerful, and it's a good thing they're not using ridiculous versions of them themselves.
So like Superman, we need to judge Goku in his prime.
After experimenting with dozens of different theories, we discovered an ironclad method to finding Goku's limits, which we call the gravity formula, based around his training in increased gravity. Due to his style of training and Saiyan heritage, Goku increases his abilities proportionate to the amount of force he trains under.
Saiyans are born with a unique...
Let me explain to you why this is BS. Instead of them using power scaling, they use this BS method of gravity formula. First of all, they stopped elevating the gravity training in prior to even the start of the Android saga. Last time we see this being used, like the elevation of the amount of gravitational force they're using, was when Vegeta used it when he went to 350 times Earth's gravity and got hurt, and then started training before Trunks showed up and before Frieza showed up. So we don't even know how much gravity training they can go up to. Also, that is not true how gravity works. I made a video explaining about gravity training and Goku and Vegeta, and the fact that it wouldn't just multiply your body's weight times the amount. It would also make your individual parts of your body, such as your bones, your skin, your hair, your teeth, your eyes, your blood, and that would consider more do more constraint on your bodies. So to match that out, you would have to put a higher output than how much is receiving onto you, because your bones would be crushed, your organs would be crushed, your blood will be clotted because it will be too heavy, your skin will be falling out. So for him to maintain it, he would have to exert more energy than just 100 times. So no, it is not equivalent to the amount of gravity that's being put on you. It exceeds that to, I don't know how much of amount, but it does exceed it because of those additional problems in it. So this thing is crap. They say that they can't use power scaling, but then they make their own BS, and apparently that's fine.
Its ability to fight anywhere.
While in base form, Goku could lift just under 40 tons. This is equivalent to 586 times normal.
And this is where they get the gravity formula from the weight thing. Now, this was in the manga, so it's not filler, but I do consider it BS, and I do consider it as power scaling inconsistency. And this happens in all forms of media, but Dragon Ball does have this problem, especially when it comes to numerical values. When Toriyama starts to put like numbers like it could, how much weight or like how much destructive power they have, it starts to not like compare with what we've seen them do. The 40 tons thing is BS. Goku could in the scene, yes, he was struggling to lift even 40 tons, which I feel is dumb, but we've seen him do crazier things than the whole 40 tons thing. He moved that huge boulder that would weigh more than that. He threw a giant boulder at Gohan to slice with a Z-sword, which would be at least close to this. As a kid, he was able to lift up a car and toss it, and a car at most would be 1 ton. So that would be meaning that at this point, Goku wouldn't have gotten 40 times stronger than he was when in the beginning of Dragon Ball, which is BS. Goku's gotten way stronger than that. I don't like this scene, and also the gravity calculation that they gave. Once again, BS.
Normal Earth gravity, which we will use in the gravity formula alongside the Super Saiyan power increases to calculate Goku's maximum potential.
Multiplying the 40 tons by the Super Saiyan forms means he can lift up to 160,000 tons in...
Once again, this scene is BS. There are multiple other scenes to say that Goku's only 40 tons in his base when we've seen him as a kid lift up a car, which would be equivalent to 1 ton, and that was when he was way weaker. By that argument, you're saying that by that time where it was like, the beginning of the Buu saga, you're telling me Goku's base strength was less than that, only less than 40 times that of when he was a kid. And he got way stronger than that. He was able to shoot or push big boulders. We also see him against Giant Piccolo, and he's able to slam him around and pick him up. So he obviously has higher strength than what this is showing, and pushing that big boulder. So he does have he can lift more than 40 tons. I just think that that's a case where Toriyama didn't know what he was writing.
Super Saiyan 4, strong enough to pick up a continent, or my ex-wife, haha! Right after Goku trained on King Kai's planet, which has gravity 10 times stronger than Earth's, he flew across Snake Way Road as fast as possible to save his friends. It took him 28 hours. Impressive, since that's 1 million kilometers long.
Technically, it's 27 hours because it took him a whole day to get through there. And then when Vegeta and Nappa started fighting them, and they found out about Goku, they waited for 3 hours. So that would be 24 plus 3, 27, not 28.
Except it's filled with curves and Goku flew straight over it. So how far did he actually travel? By comparing Goku's height to a single spike, we can measure each curve. We can then remove those curves from the overall length. So it turns out Goku actually flew 307,000 kilometers, nearly 11,000 kilometers per hour.
The problem with this is a couple of things. One, they make it sound like all of Snake Way is curved. It isn't. If you actually look at the image of Snake Way when you see the model of the Dragon Ball universe, you would see some parts of it is curved, but a lot of it is also straight. So he wouldn't be going through completely, just skipping most of it. Also, when you see in the manga, he isn't just flying straight. You see him also jumping from side to side through the curves. So he's not going just completely through it. But the calculations here, I would say, would be very close. Instead of it being 6,800 miles per hour, I would put it more to something like 7,500 miles per hour, or at most 5,000 miles per hour, because, it's not all curvy. So this is more of this is too much of an assumption for it.
To see how fast his base form is by the end of the series, we run the Snake.
And the problem with Snake Way is they make it sound like that was the only speed feat that they could show of Goku. Just like with the 40 tons thing, I think the Snake Way scene is BS. I think, once again, when Toriyama puts numerical values into stuff and you put in calculations, the power scaling doesn't make much sense. To say that Goku, would what's the thing called? Need to travel take him 27 hours to go through, 1 million kilometers is ridiculous. Even let's take away all the calculations and let's put it to the highest degree. The most it will be at 20,000 miles per hour. Goku's a lot faster than that. We've seen Goku dodge bullets, which slow bullets can move at like 1,700 miles per hour, so Mach 2.3. So Goku, as a kid, he was shown to dodge bullets countless times. So he would be faster than Mach 2.3 as a kid, and which would be relatively close to their calculation and the one that I'm giving out. So that doesn't really make sense. He dodged that. He also reacted to a missile being launched by General Black when he kicked it. And we've seen him move fast enough to create an afterimage, which he would have to move at Mach 1. Even if, let's say, he was, as a kid, he was able to move at 750 miles per hour, or speed of sound at its lowest. If you divide I'm going to do the calculations right now. If you divide 6,800 with 750, that would mean that Goku, from just being fast at the speed of sound to that point, would only have gotten 9 times stronger, which obviously is BS. that's why I don't like that one. Also, there's countless other scenes where we've seen Goku going faster, like going halfway across planet Namek in a second or less. A lot of people try to say that doesn't count, but in the back of the manga, it literally says halfway across the planet, and I'll make a whole video on that. But he has gone faster than that. We've seen scenes where there's faster, and I just feel like the Snake Way one is kind of BS. So to use that as an argument for his speed is kind of ridiculous to use. I felt like that was dumb.
Snake Way number through the gravity formula to find that his top speed clocks in at over.
And you see the problem they had here. They basically, so what they did here, these idiots, they basically made Goku's base form move at over 64 million kilometers per hour, right? Then they made Super Saiyan 4 actually half that at 32 million kilometers per hour, and then Super Saiyan 2 64 million kilometers, so just like base, and then after that they multiplied Super Saiyan 3 and then 4. So the problem with this calculation you can obviously see is they're basically saying Super Saiyan 1 base form Goku is twice as fast as Super Saiyan 1 Goku, and Super Saiyan 2 Goku is also only twice as fast as Super Saiyan 1 Goku, but also only as fast as base. So he goes from being able to go 64 million kilometers per hour to only 32. So by him transforming Super Saiyan, he got twice as slower than when he was in his base. And then by transforming to Super Saiyan 2, he was only as fast as base. So that was obviously incorrect. A lot of people say, well, they did correct this later on, but they corrected it way later on. They not only didn't correct it in this video, they didn't correct it in the second version, they didn't correct it in the Boo versus Kirby video. They only corrected this years later when they did Android 18 versus Captain Marvel. And they didn't even do it in the video. They did it in the comments section where nobody could see. So they got this wrong for years and left it for years and only changed it years later and only in the comment section. So that doesn't really count. So what would have happened would be that the feats base Super Saiyan should have been 50 times faster than base Goku. So that would be like around, let me see, 343 7. So times that by 50, you get 3,217,152,850 kilometers per hour. Now let's divide that by by miles. Actually, never mind. But so what it would basically be is this should be 50 times 64. That should be 2 times that, and then 4 times that, and then 10 times that. I will actually make a video separately just going through the calculations right now. I'm recording live, so I don't want to focus on it too much. But we know these calculations are wrong, and they did use a feat from Goku when he was far slower, and one that I don't really like because it's inconsistent.
2.5 billion kilometers per hour, over 2 times the speed of light.
Nope. He would not be over 2 times the speed of light. He'll be far faster than that. Actually, by their calculation, he'll be even faster than Superman with this video. I'm not saying in general, but he'll be faster than Superman in this video, and I'll show in another video.
We can determine Goku's durability through this bomb, which the brilliant Dr. Gero designed to kill Goku at age 25, when his maximum potential was Kaioken times 4.
That was intended for Goku.
It was intended to be a last resort.
Scans of the bomb display a TNT measurement of 657.
I like how these guys are saying, we're using official, we're not using power scaling because it's BS. But then they literally just made up fake numbers. How could they tell that that's the exact numbers from the bomb? That could have been something else different. That could have been something else, not like how much power it has. Also, I highly doubt Toriyama knows how much power it would take to destroy the goddamn planet, especially in the 90s. That seems a little ridiculous. This seems contrived to find a way of how powerful Goku, how durable Goku is.
Bulma says the bomb could destroy the Earth, so this is likely measured in quadrillion megatons, since it takes at least 53 quadrillion megatons of force to destroy the Earth.
So in his final form, Goku can survive up to nearly 35 sextillion megatons.
The problem with that scene with, first of all, it's a lot of headcanon and making stuff up. They said we're not going to do assumptions. They literally made up a whole assumption that Toriyama would know how much and that it would be 53 quadrillion megatons. Also, why did they use that specific one for Goku's ki? Also, they stated that that was for Goku when he was at Kaioken level, when he was weaker. Goku got obviously a lot stronger when he fought against Frieza, even in his base. So those numbers themselves wouldn't make sense. But on top of it, the fact that they used that, why didn't they use the fact that Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta with a planet with 10 times Earth's gravity, or the fact that Frieza could have destroyed, Namek? Obviously, he was holding back, but he could have easily done it. He said he was holding back, so that's not the problem. And he also not only took getting his ass beat, getting cut in half, he also took an explosion point blank and survived it. So Goku should be more durable than him. I'm using power scaling. Goku should be more durable than him. And that means that these guys were already, planet level all the way back in the Frieza saga. You don't need to go all this way here to say the planet level. And by Cell, they would arguably be solar system since his statement.
Goku doesn't rely solely on his physical abilities. He amplifies his strength and durability with ki.
But even though his ki reserve cannot be measured, we can determine his maximum output. See, his ki attacks do not force him backward unless he allows them to.
Even when firing upward at full power, the ground beneath him remains untouched.
Therefore, according to physics, his maximum output is at most equal to the amount of force he can withstand.
Luckily, we just calculated that with a Zero Bomb.
That's ridiculous. Okay, here's the thing. The problem with that is they're using actual real life science by using Newton's law. And here's the thing. Dragon Ball does not follow real life science. Most comics and fictional work don't. Because if they did, these characters wouldn't be moving at light speed. So it really depends on if the writer himself says that that's the case. Also, that is incorrect. If you know anything about Dragon Ball, you know that's not the case. And the reason why I say this is a specific scene in particular when both Goku and Piccolo were fighting against Raditz, and they were firing the attacks. Goku was firing the Kamehameha, Piccolo was firing the special beam cannon, and he picks up by his scouter that they're able to increase their power by condensing their energy into a single point, meaning that the amount of power that they were generating from their energy attacks was exceeding the amount of power that they usually have. And we, as Dragon Ball fans, already know this. They have a higher energy output than they have durability. So the amount of power that they're able to dish out is higher than the amount of power that they're able to take. When you see, obviously, once again, power levels, I don't like to use them, but when you see the power levels, their power levels go up higher beyond their max when they're using these energy attacks. So no, the ki would not be equivalent to his durability. The ki would actually be quite a bit stronger than his durability. I don't know to what extent, but from what we've heard from Raditz, they can condense that energy to a single point to increase the level of power from their attack. So their energy attack would have more power than they do normally. So the ki should be higher than the durability. And the calculation for the durability was very dumb and misconstrued. I'll probably make a whole video about it because I feel like they could have used Frieza destroying Planet Vegeta, or, the whole Planet Namek thing, or, use Cell destroying a solar system, since that's more impressive later on.
Alright, now that we've determined Goku's maximum potential, let's compare it to Superman.
Holy sh!
Also, let's talk about the problem with the multiplier that they had, the gravity formula. The problem with the gravity formula is they're putting that equation into feats that are from different parts of the series. Like they didn't really use it for the strength because that's where they equated it from, but from, let's say, the speed. The speed was from early on Dragon Ball. This was halfway between the Saiyan saga when they killed Raditz, and he was coming back to fight Vegeta and Nappa. Whereas the bomb stuff was in the Android saga. So the amount calculations that they're putting, the gravity formula, would be different. So that is also in its own right wrong. Also, they put without ki. Why are they putting Goku's strength without ki? I mean, it makes no sense. Goku uses ki in a fight, so why use his strength without ki? Use his strength with ki. And let me go through all this stuff right now. The 6.6 quintillion tons. Superman can't lift the Earth, but the problem with lifting is, I already made a video about this called lifting strength versus striking strength, and this is a big debate in the community, in the versus community. And if you want to know more about it, check out that video that I did. But I explained that lifting, how much you can lift, doesn't equate to how hard you can hit, and there's many factors into strength when it comes to a fight. So somebody lifting a lot of weights doesn't mean anything. Somebody that's a strongman or a bodybuilder, they can lift more than a boxer or a MMA fighter, but they're not going to be hitting as hard as them. So even lifting strength in general doesn't really matter. So I would have gone more for how hard they can hit instead of how much they can lift. And I do think the 160 tons thing is kind of BS. Then the speed, they did get the speed 100% wrong for Goku. So by their own calculations, Goku should be quite a bit faster than Superman. So they got that wrong. And also the other stuff with the fact that they used him when he was far slower. And then the durability, the 10 octillion tons, once again, that the feat that they used to prove this argument is complete BS, because he wasn't hit in the epicenter of the supernova. If you go into the comic and see it for yourself, you see that they cropped out that part and he was only hit by the shockwave. So it'll be far less than 10 octillion tons. And Goku's one, they used a weirdly specific one, and that was one that even that calculations themselves they stated was for a weaker version of Goku. So that also doesn't count. So yeah, Goku's durability and Superman's durability are incorrect. Superman, he hasn't shown that level. I'm not saying he can't, but the feat that they used was incorrect, and Goku's one was very misconstrued. So there's that. Also, when I talk about speed, I'll make a video about this too. There's also another debate about speed, and it's travel speed versus combat speed. Travel speed is how fast one character can move to another, whereas combat speed is how fast a character can fight. And for travel speed, the problem with travel speed is when you're fighting and using your speed in a fight is different than when you're running or just flying. So also how fast they can move from one place to another doesn't really matter in a fight. So let's just go on.
Shit! Not even close!
Now, we can keep throwing feats and equations around, but in the end, numbers cannot measure what Goku and Superman are capable of. They are both ultimate at the core of their character. Goku has never been invincible. He has very clear limits and must overcome.
Neither has Superman. He's never been invincible. I mean, he's not only is he not the strongest character in fiction, he's also not the strongest superhero in fiction or even comic books.
Those limits to solve the problems at hand. That's the whole point. On the other hand, Superman's story is not about the fight to become the best, but of an immigrant facing the challenge of home versus heritage. After accepting his alien side, Superman has reached his full potential, which under the endless power of the sun is essentially limitless. In short, Superman is as strong as he needs to be.
People say this for all characters, this character is strong as he needs to be, whatever. That's BS. Superman does have limits. There's countless comic books where he's gotten beaten, and it wasn't because of any BS, it was just that the characters were stronger than him. If he was this strong, he wouldn't have any problems unless they use kryptonite or magic all the time, which that isn't the case. And the sun is not infinite, it will go out at some point. And on top of that, Superman does have a limit to how much energy he can absorb from the sun. Like I said, in All-Star Superman, the reason Superman was dying was because he got too close to the sun and absorbed too much energy, and thus the process happened. Obviously, he does survive in 15,000 years in the sun in Superman Prime 1 million, but that was only because he reset the sun. If he just went off and exploded, he would have just died. So no, he does have an energy absorption output, because they say he has like energy he's like a solar battery, they say, and his cells are like battery storages, and batteries have limits, so he would be overpowered and it would destroy him. So no, he is not as strong as he needs to be. Most characters aren't.
So what happens when you pit a man with the power to break any limits against another who has no limits in the...
He does have limits. There's literally a a guidebook where it talks about Superman's limits. Superman can be beaten. He is very powerful, definitely. But to say he has no limits is BS. That would be saying he's omnipotent. He's not, he's not the president's level. He's not, the one above all level. He's not that powerful. People like to over-exaggerate. He has limits, and he's been beaten countless times.
In the first place? Well, only one has limits to give at all.
Goku just can't.
So that's the end of this video. I will be making a part 2, and yes, this video was very long, and sorry if there's any audio problems or anything like that. This was my first video, and it took me a while to get everything set up. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be making more videos. Hopefully in the future they'll be a bit shorter. I'll try to get more to the point quicker, but I hope I gave you good enough information and input into this to get through this, because a lot of people say the reason these Dragon Ball fans talk about this is to say they're butthurt and they can't accept the fact that he lost. I didn't even say that Goku would win in a fight. I'm just saying that the stuff that they said was wrong, and you can say whatever you want about me, but in the end of the day, you can't really disprove my statements and the arguments I made, but you can definitely disprove anything that Death Battle said in this video. So I hope you guys have a good day.